Welcome to the most insane modded Valheim you will ever see. From seasons that actually impact the world to dramatic terrain generation in a world full of insane 5-star creatures and bosses, along with the deep north and even the chance for PvP when it matters most. Welcome back to Season 2 of the Valheim modded series. Before we get started, I am currently trying to make it to 2,000 subscribers, and I am so close, so if you guys could help me get there, that would mean a lot to me, and thank you guys so much for watching. Last episode, we were getting our base built, and we were pretty much almost done. We were able to kill Elder, and we finally had a decent little PvP problem with Jake. Now, this problem is actually going to be on pause for just a little bit, as me and Jake don't know where each other are built. We'll slowly start to build up, find each other, but honestly, if we go different directions, we may not see each other for quite a long time, at least till the next boss starts. However, as I also went over last episode, there's a chance in my mind that Jake could be completely skipping Bone Mast entirely, and even though I know where it's at, I do need to also go up and try and find Motor, maybe even before I kill Bone Mast. That way, in the chance that he does do it, even if I'm not ready for it, I can try and grab a little bit of the loot and sell it back to him, or grab all of it and sell it to him, and the other option is that I still may be able to kill him and take it. So there are still possibilities, even if I'm not quite progressed up to that point yet, so I do kind of want to try and find that as well. On top of that, we have one trader that we do need to go visit, and we have 2 more traders to find, and we also got a little bit of iron last episode, but we honestly need more because getting built up into some iron will keep us protected in the case that we do come across Jake. As far as starting off for today though, I do need to get the base finished, at least as far as it's going to be finished for now. There's still a bunch of walls to add, a little bit of decoration to add, and building each section into what it's actually going to become, which I did a little bit of last episode, but getting everything fully polished off will give us such a clean slate for progression that it'll honestly probably speed us right past Jake and everybody else on the server. Now, from seeing I have seen some other people on the server, but me and Jake started early and have been on so much more that honestly, me and Jake have kind of agreed to just keep the targeting between me and him on just us, because messing with the other people, they're either so far behind or kind of new that it's really not going to be worth it it's not going to be fun to PvP with them. It's just kind of going to be bullying at that point. So for now, until some of them catch up to us, it's going to be kind of just be me against Jake, and if we see them out in the world, obviously we can kill them, we can trade with them, we can still interact with them, but me and Jake have kind of agreed that we're going to keep it between just us for now. For a few hours, I just kind of sat around the base, got as much wood as I could, built up walls, railings, a bunch of stuff to make the base both functional and look really nice, and trying to make it flow smoothly. And while it's not going to be the most efficient use of space for a base, it's definitely going to be somewhat efficient if I build it the right way. So I've spent a lot of time trying to focus on that, just getting the walls up and getting everything else up, because I'm tired of Grey Dwarfs throwing shit through my base and hitting me in the head while I'm trying to build stuff or put stuff in storage. On top of this though, me and Jake had an interesting conversation about the last server and this server, because me and him were pretty chill at this point. We're just kind of hanging out talking since we were both building is what it sounded like at the time. We'll go back to what he was actually doing later, but we were both pretty chill, pretty quiet, just kind of hanging out and talking. In this amount of time, Jake told me that I was asking him how he felt about this mod pack compared to the last mod pack. Now clearly this mod pack is meant to be easier than the last mod pack, and it's a little bit more focused on some little things like the seasons, which we haven't really seen the hard part of yet, but fall is coming soon and we will see it this episode. And also, like, we have the deep north installed, assuming that it works. We have some other like terrain building mods. We had different mods, and it was meant to be a little easier and a little bit more explorative with the idea of PvP behind it. So that was what the idea of the server was. But Jake told me that he literally felt like Valheim on this setting was way too easy. And while some of you may agree with that because you may have played the mod pack from the last series, that was his first time really playing through the game, and he didn't even get all the way through the game. But because of how hard that experience was, that was now his base expectation for Valheim. And I was kind of quickly realizing that I had made an absolute monster out of Jake, because he thought that he got used to the really hard mod pack being normal Valheim, and this felt like he was playing it on damn near creative mode for him, which made it really scary. But also, it's kind of insane how when you set your standard like that he now feels that this section is so easy. So that's a little interesting conversation that we have, and we'll get back to why it's interesting later, because we'll figure out what he was doing while we're having this conversation later. But it's a little scary to hear that because we started on that mod pack, and that's what I gave him as his first Valheim experience, or his first full playthrough. He had played a little bit before, that he now thinks that even this mod pack is extremely easy. And he played, I will tell you guys, he played vanilla Valheim another time after this, and he thought it was literally like I said, like on creative mode, like way too easy. So it's a little bit scary to see the monster that I've created from Jake. Apart from just me and Jake messing around though, talking about the mod pack, this mod pack last series, kind of just talking about stuff, the base was coming along really well. Jake was, like I said, getting pretty quiet, and we'll talk about why here in a minute, but all I need to do is literally get some stuff put away, get a staircase built up to this last layer, all the ceilings are on, I have ideas for where all the crafting stations are going to go generally, and then I should be good to build this should be pretty much done being built exactly how I want it for now. Before we talk about what Jake is doing doing right now though? Let me show you guys what I mean when I always talk about the fact that Jake's mic tells on him for exactly what he's doing in probably the most unfortunate moments that I've ever seen for him. I want you guys to listen to this clip very closely, as it's not even the 10th time this has happened on the server. This has happened so many times on this server. Quit buying shit.
Fuck no.
This is just one of literally hundreds of times on the server where I could hear exactly what Jake was doing while he was doing it, and I didn't always know exactly why he was doing the things he was doing, but I was getting a pretty good idea of being able to follow his progression just based on the sounds I was hearing from his mic, and there's not really anything that he could do about that. But the thing that I was hearing the most was I was hearing him mine, and I was hearing the sound of what it was either a stone golem or a troll whacking next to him, but I was pretty sure that it was the stone golem. But again, these mic sounds are partial and kind of hard to tell, but trying to act like a little detective, I was trying to see what he could possibly be doing. And after he went and got the belt, I was hearing it a lot more. And I knew that somehow, probably following one of my videos from the reverse series, or following someone else's video about doing it, but because of exactly how he did it, I'm going to say probably from my reverse series is how he did this. He was getting silver, and he was getting it by getting a stone golem to whack the ground. Yes, you can use a stag breaker or a hammer or whatever else you want to use, but the stone golems are readily available. They kind of help defend you while you're up there. And honestly, they have a little bit of a bigger hit range, so it's a little easier to do. But he was getting a stone golem to find silver for him, and he was pretty much skipping bone mass, which kind of says that what I was saying at the beginning of the episode is right. I need to get up and find motor, even if I'm not going to do it right now, just so I know and have a portal over to it, or even just generally close to it, because I do not want him getting that far ahead of me. If he kills motor before I am even through bone mass, I am screwed, and he has a portal of bone mass, so if I go to do it, he's going to stop me. He's pretty much building me in on a barrier where I cannot progress without him messing with me, but he can, and he will leave me in the dust completely if I don't do a few things. If I don't progress past him with some speedrunning methods, which I really don't want to do, honestly. This is kind of meant to be a slower server, but I can try and beat one of the bosses quicker than he can get there, or while he's in a stressful situation. I can do stuff while he's not on, though I don't want to do too much to progress past him, because that would not be that fun of a server. And I could also try and interrupt him when he goes to do it, or he could just straight up get unlucky with whatever the boss spawns as and not be able to do it himself. So there are a couple options for even if he is this far ahead to actually keep up with him, but for now, the base is pretty much built. I'm going to move everything in from outside and put everything in the chests where they go, as well as all the crafting stations from our little starter area, and we are pretty much ready to get back to iron, where the first thing I think we're going to do is build our new armor set, because our actual armor set is going to be pretty freaking insane compared to the troll hide we have. It's modded, it's very strong, and it helps our use in maces, which will make us kill bone mass extremely quickly, as it ups our mace skill and makes us use less stamina while swinging it. So the bone mass fight should be extremely easy no matter when I decide to do it. So we're going to get that built up, start getting the stuff for bone mass built up, and all of the stuff for the entire swamp built up. We may look for mountains and explore the area around our base a little bit, but generally we're going back to progression as soon as we get everything finished moving into the base. With everything finally getting packed away for the base though, Jake asked me to come to altar because we had something to kind of admire about the mods that we had downloaded, and it was honestly pretty awesome.
I should do that. That sounds... Yo, look at the trees! Come to the meadows. This is sick.
Are you by the altar?
Uh-huh. The map changes too. Just hit
That's
the
what I was
map
saying.
and look up.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. Look at the... That's what I was saying. The map changed.
Yo. It's lit, bro. This is so sick.
Yo, this is a fucking screenshot moment.
Yeah. The map looks so good, bro.
Now, if you guys are wondering, this is from our seasons biome listed in the mod pack listed below, or you can find it on probably any mod manager. But the seasons we knew affected a lot of stuff. They affect like the time of day, how long the days last, how long your rested buff lasts, how quick things grow, how quick animals grow and mate, all that kind of stuff. It affects a lot of different things, and it's honestly kind of cool because that's fairly realistic. But it also makes for pretty low FPS like changes. Like it does not change that much of your FPS. It's honestly pretty insane how much cool stuff it adds, because it doesn't just add the fall stuff. During the spring or summer, it literally looks like the meadows and the plains. During the winter, everything looks like mountains. It changes the map along with everything. You can build the seasonal stuff, so like during the summer you can build the maypole, and during the winter you can build the Yule tree and all that kind of stuff. And I think with this one we can build the jack-o'-turnip or whatever. But it's a really cool mod. But seeing this for the first time, these red trees and stuff, and how much this changed the way that the map looked, it actually changed the mini map as well. Like it changed everything. It changed literally everything about the aesthetic of the map. It was pretty freaking awesome to see. So that was, like I said, a little wholesome moment me and Jake shared. Stop the PvP, stop the progression, stop the building, and just kind of admire the cool mods that we had downloaded, as that's almost the purpose of the series. And it was pretty, like I said, it was pretty awesome to see. Me and him just hung out over there for a second. However, when I was over there, he pulled out something, silver sword, as well as it looked like he may have some silver other stuff as well that I couldn't see because I was pretty far away, but it looked like he may have pulled out a shield or even a couple, or even like a knife or something. It looked like he had a couple of different silver things, and this again confirmed everything that I've been saying. I've turned Jake into a monster by showing him too hard of a mod pack first, which is kind of funny because now he's really good at the freaking game. He's honestly probably better than me at the game at this point, even though he has 50 hours and I have 1,000. But he also is way past me, and he could be close to Motor soon. He likely knows where Motor is, so I need to be very careful in one, trying to find Motor myself, but also trying to progress and making sure that if I do progress, he doesn't see it, because if he sees me go to do bone mass, he's gonna kill me pretty quickly. He's at least gonna be able to ruin everything that I'm doing. So I need to make sure that he doesn't do that. But on top of that, he's quite far ahead, and I need to make sure that I don't let him trap me, like I said, in a little barrier of progression where I can't do anything and he can. So we need to make sure to break this, because while he is doing quite a bit better than me, I do not give up easily. So while we did share a nice little wholesome moment, he did kind of give himself away for how far ahead of me he was, pushing me back really from wanting to build and really wanting to go back hard at progression because I needed to keep up with him at minimum. And seeing how the base's storage and everything is finally coming along, the workbenches and stuff will go up in just a second after this is done, and honestly the base is pretty much looking done, maybe about another 30 minutes of finishing it up and we will be completely ready to go back to progression, because as I'm seeing, that is what I need to focus on. Now I will say Jake really hasn't built a base and has a really big base plan, so at some point he will probably slow down and I will shift at least to equal or a little bit past him as he slows down to make his base, just like we did here. But he has made a smart decision by setting up the ability to sabotage me or stop me from doing what I want to do by getting ahead of me, and then while he's building, if he really needs to, he can, but if he doesn't need to, he can just keep building. And so he's kind of set up a thing where he can make the choice, he can build and chill out, but also still have the option of stopping me if he wants to, which kind of puts the power in his hands, at least for now. But we're going to try and change that this episode. And after getting food cooked up, stuff organized, and a bunch of other little progression things, it was time to head to the swamp and get a bit more iron from one of the crypts that I had previously raided that would probably be respawned by now. On top of that, I would be able to get probably some ancient bark and some other stuff for weapons, and I would be able to make my armor set very soon. Alongside this iron, I had traded Jake just a few chains for a absolute shit ton of tin and gotten a bunch of copper, and that was smelting back at base now for bronze, which would give me the ability to make a couple fermenters as well as the armory, which is one of our modded things for armor, and that would be what I need to make my armor set. So the way that the armory works, I'll explain while I grab the rest of this stuff, is pretty much each base set in the game, like the troll hide, the regular iron set, the iron scale mail, the silver set, all of those sets have an upgradable version that helps promote you to use some sort of weapon throughout the entire playthrough. So if I choose the iron set, I will have a mace buff for the entire playthrough, and I will continue to upgrade that armor set rather than make a new one every time, which makes a lot more sense to me. But if you want something like a knife bonus and sneakiness, you can keep the assassin set on the entire playthrough by just upgrading it with each biome that you're in, which is what we did last season. So that's kind of what we're going to be using again. But again, I did trade Jake for a bunch of the stuff for really cheap. I think it was 3 chains for 60 tin, so that was really cheap. I got a bunch of copper. That's all smelting back at base. I'll have the iron, and we're going to be right back on the progression chain. We'll get an iron pick. Is probably going to be the most important thing. We still have a flint spear and flint weapons, so we need to get a couple things set up here to where we're more likely to, like I said, if we run into Jake, we'll be pretty well set up. We need a bunch of our iron stuff. We need iron gear. We need everything we can. And honestly, we need to get prepped for bone mass, because if I can catch it as soon as Jake gets offline, by the time he gets back online, we may have a chance at going for motor, or at least tying him to get there where we can stop him from doing it himself. I then made another extremely hopeful and very cheap for what it was trade with Jake. He agreed to unlock and public his portal to the trader so that I could use it if I traded him 100 great ore fives, which, as I mentioned earlier in the series, I had a shit ton of and was just getting more and more of every day because of where I was built. Now, I knew it was probably so he could make ice cream, but I really don't freaking care, because getting the portal unlocked to the trader, one, puts me pretty close to his base as far as I'm concerned, way closer to bone mass, and probably on the same island as bone mass, and it also just saves me a bunch of time for the couple hundred grit, or for 100 grit ore fives, which I already had sitting around my base. So that was honestly another really good trade that I was able to make with Jake that did help him, but probably helped me more, whether he knew it or not. But with going to the trader, I was able to get my belt. My iron was was smelting up, and it was almost time to start getting my armor set prepared, which would make me so much stronger in the swamp. In the meantime, while everything was smelting, it was time to get a mead kettle set up so that way I could make my poison resistance mead, which would again put me a lot closer to bone mass, because I was definitely going to need these if I was going to do it at least the conventional way of killing bone mass, which is honestly, if you guys have ever tried any of the bugs, there's really only one faster than the conventional way, and it's not really worth the risk. So it's probably the best thing that I'll be able to do is just to do it normally. So that's going to be one of the other things that we absolutely have to make while we're waiting for the iron and stuff to smelt. And we are going to need a lot of iron, as well as we're probably going to need a mountains very soon. I'm not going to necessarily need the mountain too crazy soon, but having it would be really nice because it gives me a chance to find motor, a chance to find some silver, and maybe even a frost cave. And even if it's a really small one, I can at least get the wolf pelt and stuff, and maybe a wolf trophy for a cape for when it is time to go to one of the bigger ones. So it's kind of on my list to, if I see one in the distance, to at least go get a portal down to it. That way I can continue to progress towards it, even if it's not my main interest right now. Also, I did get a lot of iron, but these sets are very expensive to make right off the bat. Now, once you get them made, they're not that expensive to maintain and upgrade once you get to each biome. They're about the same as a normal armor set would be, but that first one is pretty much double what the armor set is. So if it's troll hide, you need to have double troll hide. If it's iron, you need to have double iron most of the time, because you need to make the base one as well as upgrade it to the set that actually affects the weapon. So I'm going to make the iron one, and then I'll make the mace one with the iron one, which is more iron. So we're going to need a lot of iron, not just what we have so far. So we'll probably go back down to the swamp, look for a mountain in the distance, and maybe even get some more iron, because we're going to need more as we get closer to the iron set. And on top of that, we still don't have a pickaxe or a mace or anything like that, so we're probably going to need about 300 more iron at least. Also, while back at base, before I get off for the day, I am going to put I have a frost mead base as well as a poison mead base inside the fermenters in this back corner, which is where I've decided to put them. We have our base pretty much done and built, so I'm going to get off for the day, but I will be back on, which will just be a second for you guys, but just know that it is going to be a different session. So a lot of stuff could happen from now and when I get back in just a second. Jake could kill bosses, Jake could be way more progressed, or Jake could be offline, so we could have a giant jump here no matter what when I get back on. When I logged back on the next day, a lot of time had passed. Jake was on, but had just gotten on, and he had kind of gotten off about the same time as me last night, so really no progression had changed. But something really major that had changed was it was now winter, and I do not have any sort of frost resistance other than the meads that I made for the mountain, and those honestly maybe have to be what I take out with me. Now, I did make it so that you can't freeze absolutely anywhere on the map, but as soon as it's raining, your character is wet, or you are in any sort of water, you will freeze to death, just like you are in the mountains, anywhere on the map. Plants stop growing, rested buffs last half as long, and everything gets a lot more dangerous once it turns winter. However, there are a couple upsides that I can think of that I will absolutely utilize this episode and further episodes down the line when it becomes winter in other years of the server. Things like the water freezing make transportation without boat a lot easier, and exploration, portal setting, and marking out of a lot of resources and stuff a lot easier, because you don't have to worry about anything like that. The swamp becomes a lot easier because leeches are frozen in the water and you can run across it without worrying or getting stuck. However, like I said, you have to have pretty much frost resistance at all times that you're near water or that it's raining or snowing, and you will get absolutely wrecked by the winter if you are not prepared for it, which is why I spent so much time building a base before getting off, because we can kind of sit in here and live off of what we have for quite a long time, but we are going to try a few things to make sure that we get some progression throughout this winter. While Jake, who has a small base and no ability to grow anything or do anything right now, he does have his frost stuff from going to the mountain, so we're kind of an equal thing here. I'm safe in my base, he's safe anywhere, but he doesn't have nearly the resources to progress, and he's going to be moving a little slower here. Ideally, I should be able to pass him or get a lot closer to him in this amount of time while we're on today. Now, past that, I got both my poison meads set up. I got my frost one making. I forgot that yesterday I didn't put it in. I had 2 poison ones, but we have a frost one making that we'll be able to use. We have two sets of poison ones for us to take to bone mass, and honestly, we're going to just try and quietly progress inside of our base as the winter goes on, but it's already halfway through when I logged back on, so we don't have to endure it for too long. Running across the water was honestly such a weird, surreal thing in Valheim, and while I was doing it and exploring the swamp, I actually found both of the other traders right next to each other, right next to my base, as well as another plains, another meadows, another crypt, and a mountain biome. I literally found everything while just running down the hill from my base, trying to find more stuff in the swamp. This is kind of sad because it does give me a little bit of a problem with Jake knowing where I'm built at, but technically if he doesn't really explore on my base, he knew at this point that I was on an expedition running across the frozen water, so in his mind this actually may be quite far from from my base. But we have both the other traders now, which is pretty sick, and I did agree to Jake that when he set up his portal and did make a trade for it, that when I found the other traders, or if I found any of the other traders, or if he did, that pretty much whoever found them was responsible for making a public portal there that everybody could teleport to. So while I will pretty much be setting up a public teleport portal right next to my base, as long as Jake doesn't know it's right next to my base, I have no problem with that. On top of that though, like I mentioned, there are more crypts over here, our first little mountain biome, as well as another plains, a decent sized meadows with stuff with access to fine wood and other things. We're pretty much like, this is one of the best things we could have found, and running across the water is way better than I thought it was. You can run pretty fast as you start sliding, and the entire ocean is frozen. It's not just little like rivers and stuff. This may mean that I have the ability to run to a bunch of different islands, or at least a bunch of different land sections near all of the landmarks that I can think of, put down as many portals as I possibly can, and that way when the water unfreezes, I'll have a bunch of different little spots that I can go to around the map without ever having to boat to them, which feels a little weird for Valheim or being a Viking, but honestly, using the ice to your advantage is something a Viking would do, and we're not playing for the most amount of realism due to, I don't know, the insane amount of modded shit flying around us constantly. So we have that. We're probably going to use that to our advantage in a little bit, but first I'm going to check out this little mountain biome, check out the traders, and do what I agreed to do, which is put up a portal over here for maybe a small trade from Jacob if he wants to, but he really doesn't have to because he made his public as well. So we're going to set that stuff up, explore a little bit, and I'll come back with whatever I find. I didn't really find much while exploring other than a bunch more iron, but bringing that back, it is definitely enough to start setting up my armor set, as well as I think while the water's frozen, I would be absolutely stupid to not run over and put my stuff and put a portal down at Bone Mass, as well as maybe try and find some other mountain biomes and plains biomes, maybe even run as far out as putting a portal at the Mistlands, not for the purpose of doing it, but for the purpose of when I need it, because like I said, it's weird to not use a boat in Valheim, but if this is what's at my disposal, I have to use it to keep up with everybody else. So I'm going to use it as best as I can and as smart as I can, because it sounds like Jake is just messing around at his base right now and doesn't even really realize how useful the water being frozen over really could be to either of us. So I'm kind of happy that he doesn't realize that. I'm going to go get my stuff down at Bone Mass. I'm going to go get some more cores as well so I can make maybe some more smelting area, as well as I found a weapon that needs a bunch of cores. That's a modded weapon that actually looks really sick. We'll get into that in a little bit when I get closer to making it, but we need a bunch of cores. We need to run around. We need to set up some more portals. We also need more cores for portals in the first place. So we're going to go just get a bunch of stuff. Like, I'm going to get my armor set ready, and then I think we're going to go on quite the expedition looking for all this stuff, because the water's only going to be frozen for another day or two, and ideally I get everything down before then, and I bring portals with me so I don't have to worry about building a boat to get back. I can just teleport back. All right, we have our mace set fully made. We have the stuff for some portals, and we have the locations from the trader Hilder, so we should be able to at least pinpoint certain biomes that we want to go to. Mainly for me, weird enough as it is, I actually need more black forest or to find some swamp surtling spawners, because my amount of cores that I'm going to need for the modded weapon I want, as well as the amount of portals that I want to build, is going to be a little insane. And there's also some lighting features and stuff that I'd like to use for our base in the future that also take cores. So I'm honestly going to head towards the smoldering tombs and put down portals there first, and then like I said, maybe head even as far out as the Mistlands, depending on how much time I have. But our first stop, other than that first smoldering tomb, is going to be to run around the edge of our island, get an idea for how big it is, and then run out to Bone Mass, because like I said, we only have a day or two to get out of this. Each season lasts 10 days with one transition day, and it is day 8 of winter, and I assume that the ice doesn't last all the way until the first day of spring, that it may start melting a little early, which means we need to get out, we need to get stuff down, and we need to move as quickly as we can, and we need to make sure that we do not die, as well as that we correctly mark our map while we're running to get as much information about the surrounding area to our base and other places as possible, because this is going to be how most of our progression continues. We need to know where mountains are, we need to know where plains are, we need to know where the traders are at, we need to have portals to all the bosses we have locations to, as well as the Hilder's quest, so that way we know where each biome's at. We need to just have a really good idea of where everything, every resource, and everything that we could possibly need and know where it's at. We need that information now, because this is pretty much our best chance to get it. With good food, our rested buff, and a decent amount of stamina food, I should be able to literally run about halfway across the map, like I said, marking out as much as I can, because this will be quicker than sailing. I know it may not seem like it, but being able to run across land, if I hit a swamp, just being able to run right through it, being able to run over mountains and stuff, and then hop right back on the water is so much quicker than having a boat. And while I'm not moving quicker than a boat, like I said, being able to just straight line it across obstacles is pretty insane for exploration and trying to find certain things specifically. So I'm going to try and get as much as I can, and we may also try and find Jake's base, because we're going to be running in that general direction anyways. But across that, unless anything happens specifically, I'm going to go put a portal down at Bone Mass. Like I said, mark out as much stuff as I can, and then once I'm done with that little, like, with this long expedition, I'll come back and explain what I found on it. That way you guys don't have to just sit here and watch the entire thing. Okay, we have made it all the way to the smoldering tomb on the other side of the map. It took about 35 minutes to run. It's deep. It's almost night on the next day, and a day in Valheim is 30 minutes with night, and with the full day and night cycle is 30 minutes in Valheim, so that tells you about how long I've been gone. But you guys can see how far I ran. I ran all the way to Bone Mass, set up the Bone Mass portal. We still have a portal at Trader, obviously, from Jake, but I stopped by and ran through there. I found some mountains in the background behind the Trader, so I'll probably use the Trader portal to get there at some point. And then I ran all the way, explored some more swamp looking for soul string spawners, but didn't find any. But I did find some more dungeons along with the smoldering tomb that I completed to get a bunch of cores for our new weapon. And I still have a couple black forests marked out that I can go to if I really need them. But all in all, that was pretty successful. I did die once, but I had a portal down, so it didn't really matter. And yeah, that was not too bad. That was pretty good. Like I said, I spent about the last day of winter doing that. And the next time it's winter, we're probably going to have to do the same thing. But for now, I can't focus too much on it because I have weapons to build. I'm tired of carrying around a flint spear and a finewood bow. I may keep the finewood bow for now, but everything else I need to upgrade as much as I possibly can. Even maybe my bronze axe, because we have a lot of iron. We need to get our armor set upgraded from level 1. And honestly, when Jake gets off, I just want to be ready to do bone mass as soon as I can. And as long as he doesn't do motor between now and when he gets off, I should be able to catch up to him pretty much tonight. All I need to do is get a couple weapons built, a couple other little progression things, but other than that, I have the base set of armor that I will need. I have all the poison potions and a decent amount of the food that I'll need. A little bit more food wouldn't hurt. But for now, I may just work on upgrading my crafting stations like my cauldron. That way I can make the best things absolutely possible. And then we're going to start moving towards bone mass. Like I said, as soon as Jake gets off, that's going to be our mark, because we already have a portal to it. We already have almost everything, and we're pretty much ready to go. And I'm also about to make my mace, which obviously I'm going to use because it does good damage to bone mass, but I also made the mace set specifically so I could get past bone mass quicker, as that seems to be what Jake skipped and I needed to get through it. Also, the mace, I'm pretty sure from what I've looked at, the blunt damage in the game is one of the least resisted things. Almost everything in the Ashlands is somewhat damageable by it. Everything in the swamp is damageable by it. Everything in the plains doesn't really have resistance to it. Nothing really has a ton of resistance to blunt other than maybe a couple things in the Mistlands, but for that you can just use arrows. Like there's a lot of things that don't take pierce damage. Like Yagluth does not take a lot of pierce damage. The stone golems don't take a lot of pierce damage. So there are things that don't take each amount of damage, but it seems like blunt does a decent amount of damage to almost everything. So I've kind of opted to go with the mace set as well as the mace as my weapon, because it just seems to be the most universally decent thing that can do damage in almost every biome. So there's no reason not to make it. Now obviously when I get like my porcupine from the plains, that will have pierce, but I'll still get a skill bonus while using my set, even though it's not fully blunt. But other than making my mace, Jake's still on right now, so I'm going to work on my other weapon for now. But like I said, as soon as he gets off, it's a go for bone mass because we have pretty much everything we need. In the meantime, though, let's talk about this other weapon. I don't know why the recipe changed. Normally, to get this weapon, you need to get the trophy from a modded boss. But really, other than I think last season we found one of the modded boss spawners or two of the modded boss spawners and did them, but there's no like register to find them. And then they don't show up in your map and they're not very common. So getting them is really low chance. But for some reason, there's a chance to get pretty much if you have one of the mods installed without the one that gives you the modded bosses, you just get a different recipe for it since you obviously can't make it. And even though we do have the one, which is Monstrum for the modded bosses, I still got the other recipe and Jake was showing the same thing, so I was able to make it. What I want to make is it's dual wield axes that do fire damage that are supposed to be from the swamp biome, but instead I can use them with a Draugr Elite trophy rather than the other boss trophy, which is pretty sick because I managed to get one of those in my first crypt. This weapons will go over what they do and stuff, but they just look insane. I'm super excited to make them, but I think they take 15 or 25 cores to make, as well as, like I said, I need more for portals and I'd like to build a bigger smelting area at some point, or I'm going to need them for the other smelters in the future, and I don't have a spawner that I can really farm yet. So I definitely need to get a ton of them, and I'm probably just going to mark out a bunch of these crypts that I can do each day when I log on, because like I've said many a times, they respawn every 10 in-game days. So I'll just kind of farm these as much as I can for cores. I shouldn't need more than like 100 for the entire playthrough, but that's still a lot to get from dungeons, so I'm going to be exploring these quite a bit. But other than that, yeah, that modded weapon, once we can make it, it's going to look really insane from what I've seen of it. And even if it doesn't do that much damage, just carrying it on my back, because like I said, nobody else has really seen it, and Jake looked at the recipe but didn't really look at what it did, so I don't think he's going to be expecting me to have them. It might be a pretty good weapon to be able to pull out of my back pocket in certain scenarios. Because it seems like Jake isn't going to be getting off anytime soon, I also decided that while I was over here to start whacking at the Smoldering Tomb boss, because why not get some of the Hilder progress while I'm over here. And also Jake has never done that part because we never did that in the last episode, or in the last series. So I mean, I know that Jake's my competitor right now, but I'm still trying to teach him about certain aspects of the game and trying to show him it as the full game. So I will probably show him once I get it what the chests do and how they work and how the bosses work. Unfortunately for us, these do respawn, but we're going to try our best not to do the same one twice, to actually travel to each of them and do them. That way we can't really like cheat the process and get too many of Hilda's chests without actually going to all the places. So we'll try and make sure that we keep track of which ones each other has done. That way we can't just copy and do the same one after 10 days. But he did come over and visit me and hang out with me for a little bit while we did this and while I looked at the stuff that I could buy. And I saw something kind of scary. He was in Fenrir's set, not the regular one, the modded one that means he had gotten enough hair to not only build the regular one, but to double that amount and build the modded set that would give him more speed and give him a damage buff with his fist, which doesn't seem that scary, but it's also a modded weapon to have claws, like the Fenris claws that you can make. However, these ones are much stronger and you can get them all the way up to, I think it's actually the Queen's boss weapon is a set of claws. So he could actually become very powerful with that set. It makes him a lot faster to be running around and stuff, and it's a little scary. On top of that, he was fully kitted out in silver stuff. He had a Lox cape, silver sword, and I am still over here with a flint spear in my hotbar. So that was a little intimidating, but like I said, he just came out and hung out for a little bit, and he still also, to be over here, has not gone anywhere other than to this first and second trader, which means he does not know my bases over here, and he hasn't really gone looking. So that's kind of good to know. But like I said, it doesn't seem like he's going to get off anytime soon, so we may have to find something else other than making this weapon if we get that done to occupy ourselves until he gets off, or we may just have to take on Bone Mass while he's on and just hope that he doesn't mess with us too much, or that we can take it quick enough while he's busy. We have, luckily though, from all those dungeons and exploring, gotten enough stuff to make our weapon. So we're going to do that and test it out, which I'm very excited for. It's 15 cores, 30 iron, 15 blood bags, and a Draugr Elite trophy, which is pretty damn expensive considering the other weapons in the iron category. But I mean, look at these things. These things are freaking huge. They look terrifying. I don't even know how to go about using these. And these are supposed to be a boss weapon from a swamp thing, which means they do a lot of damage. Upgraded just once, they'll do 52 slash and 10 fire, which is pretty awesome. And I didn't know it now, but these are also freaking great for cutting down trees and will later in the playthrough probably become my main axe, other than for things like Yggdrasil wood, as that's really the only thing they can't chop. But they chop really fast because they're dual-handed. And these things, like I said, they're great for chopping. They do a decent amount of damage, just not as much the swamp stuff, as a lot of them aren't really that weak to fire. But later in the game, these will be pretty sick. And the heavy attack on these is insane. A giant lunge with huge fireballs around you, and it can be activated while you're jumping through the air, giving you kind of almost a double jump. That's insane. Like I said, even if these don't do me anything too crazy, it will at least be somewhat intimidation for the other players if they see me with these, as nobody has ever built these in any of the playthroughs that we've played through, because normally it takes a really weird modded boss trophy that nobody can ever find, and this playthrough it seems to have either fixed that or glitched out to where we can actually make it. On top of this, I also went and got some stuff from the Bog Witch so I could make some meads, whether I use them next time it turns winter or to actually work my way up the mountain once I get there. I'll be able to use the Ratosk meads as well as make a bunch of food from her, because I really like the big food platters, and even if I don't use them, putting them in my base is a great form of decoration if you have a really big open base with a bunch of empty space. And on top of that, I think we're gonna just have to wait till Jake gets off. It'd probably be a few hours, and honestly we're getting close to the end of this episode, but I think next episode our biggest thing is going to be use these weapons, make some preparations for maybe the mountains while we wait for Jake to get off, and just explore a little bit in the areas that we set down portals, because we have a bunch of new stuff to explore now. So look forward to next time when we kill Bone Mass and actually progress deeper in. It's the second year of the server. It's finally spring again and it's not all snowy, which sucks because I can't run across the water, but it's kind of nice because I'm not freezing to death constantly. If you guys are enjoying this series, please make sure to let me know down in the comments. I'm currently trying to make it to 2,000 subscribers, and like I said, we are really close. By the time this video comes out, we may actually already be there, and if we are, thank you guys so much. I'll put out an announcement about it too if we make it, but for now, I am currently trying to make it there. I'm still trying to grow the channel past that, so if you're not subscribed, please do. But yeah, other than that, we'll hit up next time. We'll try and get a bunch of progress, but that is going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do truly hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.